Hey Julia, how are you?
Hi, Kyler. How are you?
I'm good. I am on time. I was like, I'm gonna set 5 alarms for
You
the
did
correct.
it. We made it happen. I'm so
Yeah.
excited to have you here. And welcome, Kim. How you doing?
I'm
Oh,
fine. I'm fine. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Indiana. So.
great. Great. Same here. I'm in Austin, Texas. When fall comes, it's not just a breath of fresh air. It's like somebody let you out of the vice, of the heat.
Yeah.
So we got a really nice, cool fall day here too. I'm glad you're getting one as well.
Yeah, it's just the right temperature too, not too hot, not too humid, because we deal with humidity along with heat all the time
Oh man.
and
Yeah.
very muggy summer.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. I feel like yeah, the death grip of the heat is finally lessening here too. So in fact, here I'll show you guys the view out my window today. I don't know if you can really see it, but we
Oh
got
yeah,
we got a lot of
sunny.
good sunshine and yeah.
Good back
Yeah.
there.
Huh?
I live in an apartment on the second floor, so when I look out the window, the only thing I can see is the top of the trees out here. I think there's some kind of berry trees, like mulberries or whatever. But I can see that the colors are starting to come in on some of the trees, which is my favorite time of year.
I'm jealous. Yes. Yeah, I fall is my favorite time of year in general. We don't get too much of one here besides just for a lessening of the oppressive heat. But I get really jealous of folks in your neck of the woods that get to actually see seasonal change. There's something, I don't know. I don't know if it's the academic in me that remembers school starting around the fall time and just loving the feeling of a fresh start in the fall, or
Hmm.
if it's more about like letting go, I feel like both are happening at the same time in my body in the fall, the kind of like shedding of things and starting fresh with things. I don't know, it's just a real kind of cornerstone season for me,
Yeah.
you know?
And I take every minute in because once
Yeah.
it starts getting dreary, I get like, it's over so quick. Fall is my favorite time of the year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And I have a local state park in my town that I volunteer at. So
Ooh, which one?
it's called Mound State Park in Anderson, Indiana, where I'm from. It's a
Cool.
small state park, but I love walking the trail. I love just sitting outside and reading or whatever. I have a lawn chair in the back of my vehicle. I just enjoy, you know,
Love
it
it.
all.
I'm super inspired. I need to do more outside things. I work out a good amount, but I work out indoors in these classes, and a lot of times they're in the dark. Like I practice yoga in the dark every day. And like I get a view out of my window, but I'm not spending nearly enough time. So thank you so much for that reminder. I gotta get out on the trail. Yeah.
Just sit 15, 20 minutes outside every day and let that sun hit your face and
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that, Kim. I will. I will. That's gonna be my fall. Honestly, to give myself a little grace here, you can't in Austin. It's so hot for 6 months out of
Hmm.
the year. It's tough to get outside and stay outside unless you just really like to sweat, which sometimes I do, but it's not as a daily thing, can be kind of tricky if you've got to go anywhere later in the day. But now we're coming into the season, so thank you for giving me permission. I needed that. I got to get my butt right back outside. Welcome. Anya's here. Wonderful. Wonderful. I'm so happy to see you, Anya. Oh, she says audio and video will be available shortly. Good. Okay, great. I think it might just be us today, y'all. Oh, wait, we're waiting for John. We're waiting for one more. Hopefully, he'll be able to make it. Um, I know that Kate sends her love and her regrets, and so does Miriam. They both emailed to ask if I could let you guys know that they're missing you all. They both had some things to do this weekend. Um, but I'm kind of glad it's going to be a little bit of a smaller group today because I'm going to be breaking some hard and fast narrative medicine rules today, and it's good to do that with a smaller group. So here, I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share. Well, hopefully John can make it in while I'm pulling this up. Great. Oops, that's not the right share. There we go. All right. I'm gonna keep my participants box open and let's everybody open our chats. If you haven't already gotten your chat box open, go ahead and open it now, just in case. I doubt we'll need it because this is a small group. So today, feel free to just pipe in. But if there's anything you'd like to write in the chat box while somebody else is talking, you're welcome to do so. If you have any background noise, you can keep yourself on mute. Otherwise, you can just speak whenever you like. Um, I'd like to get started with a kind of a funky question today. When you hear the word mouth, what images, memories, or associations come up for you? Go ahead and throw them in the chat box as you think of them. Let's keep going. Keep generating some. I'll read them out loud, but I want to give everybody a good ample amount of time to just throw free associate in here. Mouth. Mm, great. Okay, we've got some good ones. So let's see, the word mouth. Um, Kim, my grandma with bright red lipstick. Oh, totally. I also think that just reminds me of the way grandmothers would put on lipstick. And maybe that's like there's generational differences in the way we put on lipstick, but my grandmother would always do this and like
Mhm.
blot it and the just looking at the mouth, that totally I see that image. Kyler says, I think of getting my wisdom teeth removed after the infection I got shortly after, and then as an adult having confidence issues with doing a Invisalign. Worth it. I'm actually thinking about doing that. So thank you for that. Yeah, the mouths as a site of trauma, but also as a kind of window to the world that you want people to see into well, like you're careful about the way your mouth looks with Invisalign and other things we do to our mouth and teeth. Ooh, open-mouthed kissing. Yeah. That's awesome, Kyler. Realize it was just because young people aren't good at it. That's great. Ooh, yeah. Oh, that's a Kim, do you mind talking about the slap in the mouth? That's a great one.
Yeah, when I was growing up, especially Gen Xers like us being raised by boomers, and maybe that's the way they were, I'm pretty sure that's the way they were handled as children,
Yeah.
is if you said something or you commented something and you spoke out of turn or you did anything that they didn't like, you got the backhanded or the slap or whatever, but usually it was a pop in the mouth, as a way to say, I don't like what you just said, or I
Right.
can't stand that you spoke up, or whatever.
Right. Man, that I have a almost 3-year-old, and I mean I can't even, it hurts me to admit this out loud, but I have to really restrain myself sometimes from doing things like that, not based on what she said, but she likes to hit. She's going through a hitting and pinching phase, and I want to do it back to her. I want to be like, it's just instinct, but I realize it's instinct because that's what was done to me, you know?
Right.
And there has to be a point at which we cycle break. And I think about just the symbolism of somebody saying something you don't like and hitting them in the mouth, and how quickly that becomes don't speak, don't say, you know? Yeah.
I, yeah, because I see now that it was a trigger for them about childhood, and therefore, if you say something they don't like, it's triggered something in them, and their immediate reaction is to hit.
Absolutely.
And, you know,
Yeah, weirdly I identify with that and I struggle with that, and yeah, and I'm glad to do the work to try to be the one who changes that, at least in my family. Oh, interesting. So Kim, you also said I don't like to smile since I have a broken tooth, and how mouths at once side of pleasure and side of shame. Yeah. And yet I'm sure everybody who looks at your smile loves your smile all the more for the broken tooth. I Isn't
well,
that
it's also
interesting?
because Medicaid cut me off, and before they even did that, they cut everybody off of dental and medical, optical. So not only do I have a broken tooth for the last year, I also need new glasses. But that's the way it goes in this society today. Is you either have the money to do it or you don't have the money to do it.
Well, I
You
think
know.
also the American fixation on having the perfect teeth is interesting to me because, like I look at folks from Europe and they all have such interesting mouths, like their teeth are just crazy and I love it. So there's a kind of, I don't know, will to perfection in our bodies in America that takes all those interesting things away, I don't know. All right. I lost my little chat box. So here, let's see if I can pull it back up. I got overzealous in my, come on, chat box. There we go. Me too, Kyler. I love a good snaggle-tooth. Oh, Anya, do you have your sound turned on yet? Can you talk to us a little bit about um mom's red lips and kissing, and maybe what feeling or tone that brings up for you just in the word mouth? Ooh, food and consumption
Sorry,
too.
I'm like
Throw that in there. I just saw those.
trying not to eat with my mouth full. I'm speaking of mouths.
Oh.
Because yeah, well, what did I first say there? Yeah, I think of consumption. I think of the shape of the mouth and the kind of various shapes of the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I think especially with speaking and singing. Um, uh, I think of soft things. I know there's teeth in there, but I think more of the tongue and the pinkness and the gums and saliva and I'm getting very biological here, but that's just what I think of right now.
Yeah.
And my mum, I definitely think of the lips. In the case of my mum, I have my screen on. You can see me eating, but um, I think with my mum, I think of uh how she accidentally gets it on her teeth or like does it wrong or something as well. Like it's kind of funny. And she always puts on lipstick, even like when we're not seeing anyone or
Mm-hmm.
anything. Or when we're rushing to go out the door, it drives me crazy. But she'd be like, hang on 1 second, go into the bathroom and put on lipper. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like we're different some ways, but yeah. But I at the same time, like it's one of those things, like I have my own little red lipstick and I sometimes put it on just for fun. I think it's important sometimes. And I take it with me when I travel and stuff. So I'm a red apple from the apple tree.
I have my This is for special occasions, my dark red lipstick.
I wonder if this
Hmm.
is a weird thing to say. It probably is. I might have to, but I'm thinking about lips as the place where language comes out and how they're kind of the filter for in some ways for language and and how you want that filter to have a certain kind of, I don't know, look to it or uh, gloss to it. And it makes me wonder too, like I always notice whenever I see people speaking in sign language, how beautiful their hands are and how well they take care of their hands. And I wonder if there's a translation between the two, how we try to communicate. We try to take care of we try to take care of these things in a different way than the rest of our body. Yeah, there's so much here in a mouth. There's language, there's pleasure, there's childhood memory, there's shame, there's pain and trauma, beauty and difference, perfect imperfections. These are just a few of the notes that I jotted down. So just in this one seemingly simple body part of the mouth, so much is contained here. We're going to be looking at a text today about an author's mouth. So I thought we would just start with our own associations. Um, I was just chatting with the folks who popped on the call early on about how I'm really glad this is going to be a small group today because I'm going to be breaking some narrative medicine rules. One of which is that we're going to be looking at a longer text today. Usually we like these little bite-sized pieces, that we can really dive into. Um, but what I've chosen today, I've chosen out of pure selfishness that I just love this new text and I'm really interested in what you guys have to say about it. So I'm going to give us a good little chunk to read. But first, I'll tell you a little bit about the author. I'm going to skip the narrative medicine stuff. You guys are old hats at this. So next slide. All right, Maggie Nelson. Is anybody here familiar with Maggie Nelson? Anybody know her work?
I own the Argonauts and I still have not read it. It's like on my bookshelf in my
Tyler,
pile. I know.
do it.
I have to get around to it. Yeah.
Do it. The Argonauts, I don't my husband often accuses me of exaggeration, and so I'll try to peel this back, but I can't. Argonauts changed my world. Like not only changed it wasn't just a great read, it changed the way I write, and it changed the way I think too. Uh Maggie Nelson has really coined this new genre of writing that braids philosophy or philosophical inquiry with autobiography. So no longer is it this, you know, high and mighty mind talking about things out there in the ether in this abstract way. She's talking about how it actually applies to her own life and how she fits in specifically queer theory into her own life. Maggie Nelson's husband is a transgender man and they have a child. So the Argonauts is largely about being in this weirdly heteronormative space of motherhood and marriage, but in a very queer way. And she pulls in queer theorists and philosophers and puts them to work in her life to help her figure out who she is, what the hell she's doing here, what she really wants. I think she's absolutely brilliant. I'm really excited to share with you. She's written a couple other great books, Bluets, The Art of Cruelty, and most recently, Pathemata, which is what we're going to be looking at today. Um, Her writing often explores themes of embodiment, pain, queerness, desire, art, philosophy, moving fluidly between the personal and the theoretical. She teaches English at USC. Here are a couple great quotes that I love from Maggie that I think will apply to our reading today. First, she says, "Honesty rather than honor is the antidote to shame." Kyler, I think I wrote this on your midterm this week because it's such a beautiful concept that the goal is not a moral one. It's an expressive one. And how we say the thing we're ashamed about is actually the medicine for the shame. Another way of saying that, she says this better in Pathemata. It's not the dream that matters, it's the telling of the dream, the words you choose, the risks you take in externalizing your mind. Here she's playing with Freud's The Dream Work, so literally talking about dreams. But I think this applies in the metaphorical way too, the dreams that we have for our own lives. Um, so to Pathemata. Pathemata is called The Story of My Mouth. And in narrative medicine, usually when we are choosing a text, we choose a text not because of that it's an illness narrative. In fact, Rita Sharon, who is the kind of fairy godmother of the narrative medicine field, encourages folks not to choose texts that are about illness narratives because her goal is really just to train attention and listening rather than train us to be comfortable with illness. This, however, is a beautiful example of the two colliding. Looking for it's a narrative that is at once complex and invites ambiguity and invites attentive listening, and it's also an illness narrative about chronic pain, specifically mouth pain. So I haven't finished reading it yet. I'm just about a quarter of the way through, and I'm fascinated with not just the story itself, but how she tells it in fits and starts in this multi-genre way, using braided narrative to get at something very similarly to the way a dream would, obliquely, not directly, but somehow a new truth emerges in the space between. So also, just a little side note, Pathemata comes from the Greek roots pathema and pashko. Pathema means, I'm sorry, pathema and pathos. Pathema means to suffer, pathos. Um, Oh, I'm sorry. It comes from a mix of pathema and mathemata. I apologize. So pathema means to suffer. It's related to the root word pathos, meaning passion or suffering, which is the origin of English words like pathology and sympathy. That is a poem in itself, right there, in my mind. First of all, that pathology and sympathy share a root, and the root of which is suffering. And that suffering shares a root in passion as well. Like there's so much going on in that one etymology that I feel like that's just waiting for somebody to write a gorgeous poem about it. And then pathemata mathemata is actually a Greek proverb, which means things suffered, things learned. And I actually spent some time looking up this etymology because at first I kind of bristled at it. This idea that one must always suffering is always an opportunity for learning, I think has a kind of note of toxic positivity to it, but that's not actually what this means. It just means if you look into the etymological roots of this and how it was used in Greek society, it was that a different kind of learning happens through suffering than happens through book learning or abstract concepts, which I feel that lands with me more squarely. And also, I think kind of harkens back to Maggie Nelson's whole project of not having these abstract, high-minded theories, but actually putting them to work in her own life to learn something new through her suffering. And she gives us an example of it here in Pathemata. All right, I'm going to stop talking at you guys. I apologize for that long-winded introduction. Let's dive into the text itself. There are, let's see, there are four of us here. Poor John, I guess, couldn't make it today. So I have four slides. Each one of us will read a slide. So Anya, I'll have you, actually, Anya can go last because Anya's finishing a snack. So Anya will be number 4. I'll just work my way backwards. Kyler, you'll be number 3. Kim, you'll be number 2, and I'll start us off with number 1. Do be aware that this is a funky text to get through. There are some big words. If you don't know the word, you can just figure it out on the page. No one's going to judge you for not pronouncing it correctly. Also, Kyler, just a heads up, page 3 has an F-bomb. Feel free to lean in or abbreviate, whatever. I'll leave that one up to you. Okay, is everybody ready? Any questions? Nope. Okay, let's go. Let me move all my little chat boxes and things out of the way so I can see. Here we are. Pathemata, the story of my mouth. I get up first to be alone. and also because my jaw hurts too much to stay in bed. Each morning, it is as if my mouth has survived a war. It has protested, it has hidden, it has suffered. It has floated. Its minuscule points of contact have hit and repelled. Pain has shocked, then pulled up around the joint. Rather than each other, my teeth find cheek, which they masticate, leaving in their wake two mountainous ridges. I shove the sheet into my mouth to know that I am still here, still rooted to the crust. When H is home, which is about half of the time these days, I apologize to him for the white splotches on the comforter's rim. He says it's okay, they just make him sad. As I tiptoe to the kitchen, I bite check, which I've been instructed not to do, but I do it anyway to make sure my top and bottom teeth are still in the same mouth, lost cousins of the same star. He has pulled the car over on a rural highway to help a turtle cross the road. We are on a blind incline, so there is a significant risk of them both getting hit by an oncoming car. He treats the turtle with tenderness and urgency, more tenderness and urgency than he has ever shown toward me. I wait in the passenger seat, watching the heat steam off the asphalt. I don't care if the turtle lives, but I pretend that I do.
I am trying to be loved. There is a window of time right after waking when the mind is allegedly freshest for creating. An article in the paper calls it the morning rush. For about 2 years, I kill it by reading the news on Twitter. First, I get to know the personalities and dogs and knitting habits of ex prosecutors. I marvel at their ease with moral language. This after years spent putting putting people in cages. Then I spend time with various epidemiologists. I don't know if I said that right. Getting to know their senses of humor, their compulsions, just staying for Omicron, their punctuation styles, their risk tolerance, their wounded response to the aggression of others. I particularly enjoy Monica Gandhi's embattled optimism, her passive aggressive thanks, her nearly erotic appreciation of the vaccines.
Orofacial pain clinic number 1 can't help. Orofacial pain clinic number 2 can't help. As I set off into the uninsured wilds, I start a file on my desktop, wherein I catalog the conditions of the pain's onset, the doctors I've seen, the results of their imaging, the medications and physical therapies I've tried, the activities that seem to make it better and worse, and so on. I bring this document to each new appointment, hoping it might offer a useful summary of a confusing physical situation, as well as confirm my status as an organized patient eager to participate in her treatment. We are driving along East Blythedale in the dark in a van, Grandpa at the wheel. He is silhouetted, and we know we are in trouble. We are en route to the scene of the crime, but what crime? When we get there, it's the girls' room in the Brady Bunch. An ex-student is walking around, her cancerous cleft lip, talking about trauma, calling it the fuck festivity. There, the mother among us has a psychedelic moment in which her skull turns into radiant phosphines with horrifying cavernous teeth. It signifies her guilt for having let her husband, my grandfather, torture and kill his daughter, and for her having kept his secret all these years.
It doesn't take me long to realize that no one wants to read this Pathemata. People flick through it, then tuck it into the rear of my life, as if its principal message were that I am a logoric in need of management. My file begins with a flu I'd had at my grandfather's funeral, an unusual flu that brought a month-long fever and left its residue a certain difficulty in swallowing. From there, the symptoms literally branch out. Electric threads along my lower gum, a snake of pain looping from jaw to eye, constant kinetic ache in the joint, the recurring feeling that I had received a blow to the face while sleeping. Not wanting to miss any details that might prove key, I allow the tapestry to widen, weaving in my early history with speech therapy, lifelong struggles with tonsillitis, adolescent adventures in orthodonture, previous barium swallows, and bouts of TMJ, the weaning of my baby, perimenopause, domestic stresses, the literal and symbolic role of the mouth in the life of a writer.
Great. Thank you, guys. We are going to do this again, which is, I know, another mouth exercise for all of this, all of us. There's a lot of good words, big words, and big ideas on these pages. So let's read it this time in reverse. I'll have Anna go first, then Kyler, then Kim, then me. A couple of little explanations that might help us frame this contextually. This book was written during the pandemic. So you will notice mentions of epidemiologists, mentions of the doctor. Gandhi was the doctor who was very vocal online about vaccines during the pandemic. Just more context. Maggie Nelson is also very pro-vaccines. I don't want you guys to misread that moment. And the word logorrheic means a chatty Cathy, someone who talks and talks and talks and talks, kind of like this text. All right, let's read it one more time. And I'd love for us to be looking for, well, actually, let me change this a little bit. I want us to be looking at the different sections. Each section begins with a space between it. And I'm curious what genre you think this section is. You know, how is it working? What is it? Is it a dream? Is it a journal entry? What is it? And what is it doing? All right. In fact, I'm going to make this a little even simpler. Whatever slide you're on, I want you to be responsible for telling us what you think, whatever genres of sections are on your slide and how they're working to help this author tell us about Pathemata. All right. Anya, you want to get us started?
Yep. I get up first to be alone, and also because my jaw hurts too much to stay in bed. Each morning it is as if my mouth has survived a war. It has protested, it has hidden, it has suffered. It has floated, its minuscule points of contact have hit and repelled. Pain has shocked, then pooled up around the joint. Rather than each other, my teeth find cheek, which they masticate, leaving in their wake two mountainous ridges. I shove the sheet into my mouth to know that I am still here, still rooted to the crust. When H is home, which is about half of the time these days, I apologize to him for the white splotches on the comforter's rim. He says it's okay, they just make him sad. As I tiptoe to the kitchen, I bite check, which I've been instructed not to do, but I do it anyway, just to make sure my top and bottom teeth are still in the same mouth, lost cousins of the same star. He has pulled the car over on a rural highway to help a turtle cross the road. We are on a blind incline, so there is a significant risk of them both getting hit by an oncoming car. He treats the turtle with tenderness and urgency, more tenderness and urgency than he has ever shown towards me. I wait in the passenger seat, watching the heat steam off the asphalt. I don't care if the turtle lives, but I pretend that I do.
I am trying to be loved. There is a window of time right after waking when the mind is allegedly freshest for creating, An article in the paper calls it the morning rush. For about 2 years, I kill it by reading the news on Twitter. First, I get to know the personalities and dogs and knitting habits of ex-prosecutors. I marvel at their ease with moral language. This after years spent putting people in cages. Then I spend time with various epidemiologists, getting to know their senses of humor, their compulsions, just staying for Omicron, their punctuation styles, their risk tolerance, their wounded response to the aggression of others. I particularly enjoy Monica Gandhi's embattled optimism, her passive aggressive thanks, her nearly erotic appreciation of the vaccines.
Oh, Kim, you're on mute still.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Oral facial pain clinic number 1 can't help. Oral facial pain clinic number 2 can't help. As I set off into the uninsured wilds, I start a file on my desk top, wherein I catalog the conditions of the pain's onset, the doctors I've seen, the results of their imaging, the medications and physical therapies I've tried, the activities that seem to make it better and worse, and so on. I bring this document to each new appointment, hoping it might offer a useful summary of a confusing physical situation, as well as confirm my status as an organized patient eager to participate in her treatment. We are driving along East Blithedale in the dark in a van, Grandpa at the wheel. He is silhouetted, and we know we are in trouble. We are en route to the scene of the crime. But what crime? When we get there, it's the girls' room in the Brady Bunch. An ex-student is walking around with her cancerous cleft lip, talking about trauma, calling it the fuck festivity. There, the mother among us has a psychedelic moment in which her skull turns into radiant phosphenes with horrifying cavernous teeth. It signifies her guilt to having let her husband, my grandfather, torture and kill his daughter, and for her having kept his secret all these years.
It doesn't take me long to realize that no one wants to read this Pathemata. People flick through it, then tuck it in the rear of my file as if its principal message were that I am a logorrheic in need of management. My file begins with a flu I'd had at my grandfather's funeral, an unusual flu that brought a month-long fever and left as its residue a certain difficulty in swallowing. From there, the symptoms literally branch out. Electric threads along my lower gum, a snake of pain looping from jaw to eye, a constant kinetic ache in the joint, the recurring feeling that I had received a blow to the face while sleeping. Not wanting to miss any details that might prove key, I allow the tapestry to widen, weaving in my early history with speech therapy, lifelong struggles with tonsillitis, adolescent adventures in orthodonture, previous barium swallows and bouts of TMJ, the weaning of my baby, perimenopause, domestic stressors, the literal and symbolic role of the mouth in the life of a writer. All right, I'm going to add into the chat box right now a link. And this link will take you to a Google document that everyone should be able to access. This is a bit of an experiment, so hopefully you'll all be able to access this. That way you can see this all in one space if you'd like to have it open in a separate tab. I'll keep switching between the slides and our slide presentation as well as we're looking at different points, but if you'd like to scan the whole document, there it is. Anybody able to pull it up yet?
I
Yeah.
don't see it.
Oh, it's in the chat box.
There.
If you scroll, yeah, sometimes you need to scroll. Yeah, okay, great. Okay, cool. So, oops. I'm gonna take us off of screen share and, oh, nope, I'm not. I apologize. Okay. There we go. Can everyone see this? Can everyone see the text now? Okay, great. All right. So, Anya, what genres are you noticing in this first section, and how are they working to reveal something about this writer's experience of mouth pain or suffering as learning?
Um, I suppose I'm trying to still figure out what is meant by genre in terms of like
Ah,
literary genre or medical genre or something.
you know,
Um,
I think I'm getting really loose with the term. So I think t technically genre is like, is this is this fiction? Is this nonfiction? But I'm using it more like, is this a dream? Is this a memory? Is this
yeah,
a list? Is that,
yeah,
just yeah, whatever, what's the form this is taking?
yeah. I feel when I first read this or when we read it again, it's more like diary entry nearly for me.
Yeah.
Towards the end, it's confessional in a way. That last line um is kind of a secret for us and her. The
Mm,
the he H doesn't know.
yeah.
Um, I think it's very it's very what's the word? Like self-check-in.
Hmm.
Um, it's diary entry, but it's also a little bit of a storytelling towards like that second paragraph and um third. So for primarily it's a bit of a diary entry for me.
Hmm.
And a feeling, kind of expressing feeling, literally, visceral feeling, and
Great,
mm.
great. What feelings are each section, what do they make you feel in each section?
I think in the first section, I mean, just because all the words kind of hit me with hurt
Mm,
and war, protest, like there's a lot of pain in the first section. I can't help but feel aches and yeah, and even the shoving of the sheet into the mouth is just a very invasive feeling
yeah,
in uh yeah, and much physical pain. So there's like kind of a sense of physical pain going on in the first
yeah.
um section. Um, and then in the second section, what sort of was the question? What sort of feelings
Oh.
am I getting?
Yeah, what feelings are you getting from this? Yeah.
Mm. There's something about the apology that's kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, totally.
And again, when he says it makes him sad, there's apology, there's sad, there's a mistake, and then the bite check instructed not to do. Again, it's like a mistake. Um, um, or being wrong, not doing the right thing. Um,
Hmm.
Lost cousins of the same star. Yeah. Um, I mean, I'm just going with the words I see as well, like feelings of lost,
Hmm.
missing, lost, checking, kind of looking for reassurance, probably twice in
Hmm.
the other and then in the mouth.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
okay.
so
I
far.
know we haven't even done the third section yet, but I want to hit the pause button there. Looking for reassurance in the mouth and in the other.
Mhm.
Um, that is so interesting as I notice the second section really hones in on the relationship between the speaker and H.
Mhm.
And kind of through the lens of the mouth, we see that they too are kind of lost cousins of the same star. Maybe, maybe H and the speaker aren't quite meeting in the same way too. Like they become parallel,
Mhm.
the other and the mouth. Very
Yeah.
interesting. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, no, no, it's interesting. Even like equal sections, 3 lines for him, 3 lines for the mouth. You know,
Ooh. Oh,
it's
yeah. I
just,
mean, almost precisely. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, as if kind of po nearly poetic lineation, what's going on there. Just
Mirror.
that one time.
Ooh, fascinating
Yeah,
observation.
coincidence. Yeah. But
We can add that to our list of genres. There's a little bit of a poem in here too. Yeah.
I think definitely a reflect. I don't even know what type of poem they're called, but just the eye of the poet.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
will I keep going to the third section for now?
Please.
Use the poem. Well, now we're somewhere else. I mean, we're kind of in a scene here
Mhm.
instead of just kind of other ideas. Because the first two sections, we're not really present in a place. The second is like whenever he's home, so it's kind of conditional or something. And same with the first one, it's more recurring. But this is an incident, and now there's like a third character here, which is like the turtle.
Mhm.
Um, and there's again, I'm picking up words. I see blind, I see risk,
Mhm.
um, and then I see tenderness, urgency, and more tenderness than. So there's um that team of fault. Yeah, there's opposite, and she's directly observing the he.
Mhm.
Yeah. What was the thing I'm supposed to be looking for again?
What feelings are you picking up? You're already doing a great job.
Yeah.
And I could even open this up to the group. Are you guys noticing any other feelings happening in this last stanza?
Please. Yeah. I know.
Please, Skylar, yeah.
Mine sort of blends into the next slide, so maybe I'll wait. But I think like this has a really strong relationship for me to the other one. Like I thought in the second section actually, where it starts talking about like apologizing and maybe just like apologizing to see what the person will say. It's like a test. Like I'm
Mm,
testing my partner. I'm testing your resolve to
mhm,
love me. And then
mhm.
it's like I was told not to do the bite check, but I'm gonna test that too, just to like, see like what the risk is of doing something that not supposed to do. Because then the next slide is like I'm trying to be loved. Like I'm proctoring these tests to like try to figure out whether I'm worth loving and how to get other people to like see that I'm worth loving. And I don't even know if I am type of
Ah,
thing.
so insightful, Kyler. I'm going to add that to our list of genres, a test. There's a test happening here. Test, and you said specifically to see the risk, just like in the bite check, which you've been instructed not to do, but you want to see if the connection's still there. That kind of test is happening not only in the shoving, not only in the apology for the white splotches, just to see what H will say, but also kind of here in this moment where H treats the turtle with tenderness and urgency, more tenderness and urgency than he has ever shown toward me.
And she uses the word risk, like it's a significant risk that he's taking to like help this animal, but he won't do it for her necessarily.
Right. And so with that in mind, when we reach that final line, I don't care if the turtle lives. It's not quite as callous as it would first appear. It's like, I want to be loved as much as that turtle is in this moment. I mean, and I'm your partner. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Great points, you guys. Let's go ahead and go to that second slide. So Kyler, you've set it up for us really nicely.
Yeah, I immediately thought it was very important that the I am trying to be loved is by itself. And
Right.
I don't know if do you know if this like first line on this slide immediately follows the last slide in the book?
It
Or is there
does. Let me see if
okay.
there's if it exists on its own. In the book, it actually oh, you can't see it from there. I'm trying to be loved is actually included in the previous stanza. So that's a my bad for miss.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But
Yeah.
I actually like it, like you're saying too, just in its own little space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. And I also feel like the first line of the like after that line break, there's a window of time right after waking. It's literally like, oh, I'm waking up to like a new section.
Hmm.
That felt symbolic for me.
Hmm.
And it's freshest for creating. So she's like, okay, I'm gonna create something. I'm gonna like take advantage of this morning rush, but then she says like I killed it by reading the news on Twitter. So it's like I just really identified with this because I get a lot of my news from Twitter. Um, Mostly because too it's it's much easier. Like there are obviously a lot of problems with social media, but like Twitter was one of the only places where we were getting like the voices of Palestinians during all of this conflict. Like the information is coming directly from people who are in the space. And but like it's still, I feel like the last 2 years have just like really worn on my soul, like from reading that. But it's like to me, it's better to hear it from the primary sources than like turning on a news channel. And it's just interesting how she then goes into like I'm getting to know like the personalities of people and like their what they do for a job is oftentimes like if you were just reading about them on paper, it would be hard to identify what they do for a living.
Hmm.
There's this really funny post that goes around sometimes on Twitter where it's like sometimes I forget that like my Twitter mutuals have like real adult jobs and they go and do something, like very serious during the day, and then they're on like, talking about anime and stuff. Like it's really funny to me. But I just like that's what came up for me when I was reading this. Like the personalities of the people who are like doing this major, really serious work, but are also so human, like in their
Mm.
downtime.
Hmm.
Um, and then it's like, it changes, like all of these are new sentences. They're their own lines. And I think like that speaks to like a disconnection. Like I think the theme of this whole section is disconnection. Because it's like there's a disconnection between like what the ex-prosecutors, oh, excuse me, I thought I
Right.
said that was the epidemiologist, but this is the prosecutors. So it's like the people who are doing this work of like putting people in cages, like being immigration officers is what I got from this. And it's like there are people who can compartmentalize um, so strictly that to like an outsider's perspective, it's like, wow, like you can go and do these, horrible things that are like literally humanitarian crime, like they're crimes against humanity, but it's like then you're on Twitter talking about your dog and like what you did that day, and it's like it's almost like this major disconnection between what people like would feel is right and would say is right in other spaces and what they're actually doing. Um, and then like the epidemiologists uh, have a sense of humor. So like this, I feel like obviously she has this sort of better view of like the scientists than she does with the prosecutors, but it's also still like the compulsions part, like just staying for Omicron. I don't know if that means like just staying in terms of like staying on the internet or like staying on social media, like so they can continue trying to give people the correct information. Or if it's like, oh, I'm just staying in the US, even though it's so horrible, I'm staying here just for this new thing that like is gonna hurt a lot of people. And like I feel like I need to stay. Um, and like the wounded response to the aggression of others also kind of struck me like that's the last line in that. And again, like we see the word risk again, like it's the risk tolerance. Um, yeah. It's a lot of, I don't know, that was really rambly, but
So many great points there. So, I mean, you pointed out so many great things. So, just the genres I'm noticing here, we've got news, we've got social media scrolling, we've got something that's like doom scrolling, but actually maybe an even more scary version of it where instead of looking at doom, you're looking at all the really nice things that are posted by people who are causing the doom. Like you nailed it with the word disconnection. Just like the way the bite is not really connecting and leaving these painful mountainous ridges, there's a
Mm,
disconnection causing pain for this speaker between personalities and realities, between even the people that she likes, like Monica Gandhi, the message and the passive aggressive thanks, the eroticism of something so so necessary, like there's a weird disconnect happening throughout. And you also, if I were going to create a genre out of that, I might say something like, I don't, collage is not the right word. What is an art genre where you kind of throw disparate mixes of things together that create a kind of whole, well, I guess it's exactly what we're looking at. It's braided narrative.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So what do you guys make of first the sentences on their own lines?
Mm.
Why do you think, and this is a great point that Kyler brought up, we have not just sections, we have sentences, each with their own line. What effect does that have on you as a reader? And just think about how maybe it would have a different effect if it were all running like in paragraph form. What is the difference in you as a reader reading just these single sentence lines?
Well, for me, I like to read one sentence at a time because I want to absorb what am I hearing, what am I seeing, using my senses, what am I picturing in my mind as I read each paragraph. Because she goes back and forth between what's really happening, what's in her subconscious, and what's part of everyday life that she embodies. So it's kind of a mixture as you go along. Like this sentence could be what's really happening at this moment. The next one is a memory. The next one is something that might happen or will happen. I mean, it just keeps going and going and going in that pattern of the prose and poetry and a little bit of micro-memoir in there, because micro-memoir is several different types of things involved. And like poetry or prose or haiku, whatever you want to call it. But I want to feel what she's feeling at that moment for each sentence that I'm reading, or I want to see, okay, how am I picturing this compared to how she's picturing this? So if that makes any sense of what I'm saying, or how I'm saying it, but
And I'm adding micro memoir to our list of genres here. But helps absorb, helps you appreciate the distinct feelings of each thing. And not just the distinct feelings of each thing, but the way that feeling butts up against the feeling in the next line, and somehow the in-between feelings that emerge too.
because we are very complex, we can multitask. I can't say we're doing one thing very well while we're multitasking, but she is multitasking in her thoughts as she's writing this down.
Absolutely. So let's go back to how those you said each line brings its own particular feeling. What are you feeling in this section so far? And I think it's probably impossible to talk about what feelings this section is bringing up for you without that line at the top of the page that what shouldn't have even been included, but now I'm glad it is because all of this is kind of we have to see it through the lens of that line. So what do each of these things, what do they make you feel? What feelings are you picking up in this section?
I'm picking up she's she has a routine,
Mhm.
but at the same time, she wants the flexibility of unexpected to happen, but wants that unexpected to be something positive, or at least better than the pain that she's actually dealing with, that's always there, always reminding her of what's really happening when she tries to create that routine of reading the paper and reading different things and seeing what everybody else is doing on Twitter or whatever. Because I think I know me personally as an amputee, sometimes I have phantom pain, for example, not really pain, but I have things like restless leg or little zaps, and they like are methodically timed. And it's like you expect that next zap because you can almost count in between 5 seconds, another zap, 5 seconds, another zap. At the same time, I'm trying to distract myself. So she's distracting herself from the pain by doing what she's doing. But at the same time, she's very aware of that pain and trying to deal with it in whatever way at that moment. Sometimes she deals with it in a positive way. Other times she may try to disassociate from that pain that's going on. Because as an empath and me, I always like tend to have the bad habit of reading beyond, like, I think what she's really trying to say is, kind of thing.
Yeah, brilliant. There's a distraction happening here. There's a dissociation even happening here. But as you have already brilliantly said, she doesn't exactly manage to do that. She's aware of it despite her trying to be distracted from it. It's kind of the return of the repressed.
The
Where do
catch
you,
22.
what's that?
It's a catch 22 going on the entire time because
Yeah.
she's multitasking in her brain at the
Mhm.
moment between the pain and trying to live a normal life at the same time.
Where do you see shadows of that pain in this particular slide? And this is a question for everybody. Where do you guys see shadows of pain here?
I think after I read it a few times, I picked up on like all of the things below that line that says for about 2 years I kill it. So like I'm killing the morning rush, and then she says how she kills it. So
Mhm.
it's like she's killing her creativity or like her spontaneity and creativity, which to me like reads as pain. It's like I'm dealing with so much physically that the only thing I can do is just distract myself, and it's not what I want to be doing. I wish I was doing like my creative projects. Like that resonated with me because like, from having like a blood infection for a year and like not being diagnosed and just kind of feeling like I was this really creative person, and now like it's literally all I can do to just do my job and then log off and like watch TV. Like I physically can't do anything else. And I've only recently started like doing creative projects again, but it was like looking back, I feel like I had a lot of similar feelings. And so like I identify with it. Like it really starts to like kill your spirit. And sometimes you just do it on purpose because if you just don't do anything and stare at the wall, it's like, why am I here? Um, that's what came up for me when I read that, like the morning rush, like not even having that spur of creativity because you just don't feel well from sun up to sunset. You just don't feel well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel that too. The word kill is like the pall over that's cast over everything else. There's something being killed here. And yet there I see her close she's close reading here. I guess that's another list, something else we could add to our list of genres. She is close using all of these creative skills. She's looking at moral language. She's getting to know senses of humor, punctuation styles, examining risk tolerance. She's looking between the lines of responses and seeing a wound in the response to the aggression of others. Like she's actually using all of these creative skills that might be put to use in her own work, but now on the pain of the world, which may be, in a weird way, something that she can wrap her mind around more than her own personal pain.
I
Um,
see a little bit of grief and mourning of loss of a life she could have had if the pain hadn't been there for the last 10 years.
Yes. I feel that grief too. I feel,
Grieving what
go ahead.
grieving what we've never had because of something else that took its place.
Mm-hmm. We need to come up with a lot more la words and language to describe time. Like there needs to be a word for that. The grief for the thing that you should have experienced in the future that now you can, know you will not experience. There has to be a word for that kind of temporality, but I feel that here too. Almost even in a snarky way, which itself is a defense mechanism, right? Like that I particularly enjoy, the snark there, the embattled optimism or passive aggressive thing. There's the way that we deal with that grief.
She
Yeah.
has more than one side to her,
Yeah.
and all of us do. So we're seeing that played out by each sentence that she writes.
Right. In real time, the multiplicities that she contains, all making themselves known at once. Great. All right, let's go to the next slide. Kim, do you want to talk a little bit about this one? What genres are you noticing? What feelings come up for you? Yeah.
Well, I can certainly relate to the first two lines about the pain clinic. One can help. I mean, even now, I still have issues with, okay, now here's another number to call. Here's another number to call. Will I ever get any answers about this? Or will I get seen? Or, that kind of thing. Looking at searching for answers. She's still searching for that answer.
Yeah.
Um, and I see the frustration in that. And it says, as I set off into the uninsured wilds, like I don't have insurance, but I still have to get something done about this. And she's got a file, so she's organized to some degree about her frustration. She's trying to control the situation by organizing. She's trying to express how she feels, but at the same time, if I create this routine, I can get through this. If I
Mhm.
don't have this routine, I'm just going to sit here and stare at the wall and not move. You know, I've seen the results of their imaging, the medication and physical therapies I've tried, the activities that seem to make it better and worse, and so on. That I relate to in the sense that you feel like, okay, it's like colic, only for adults. You get so frustrated. Well, it worked the last time, but now it's not going to work.
Mhm.
And what can I do now? And have I run out of answers? And there's got to be something, one more thing out there that I can check into that might work? And it's kind of, the symptoms and below the symptoms is more than that. It's the trying to find what is actually the actual problem.
Mhm.
These are symptoms. We're still looking for the actual source of the problem.
Right.
And and then she suddenly jumps to something. I assume it's like she's flashbacking on something that happened in her childhood, but I'm not sure if she was an adult or a child when this was happening. I kind of think she was a young adult, maybe,
Mhm.
but I wasn't sure because I don't know that much about her background. I'm not quite sure where that's going, other than there's a childhood memory that could be related to the pain, the physical pain, but also the emotional, mental, psychological pain of something that happened that also triggers other types, like the physical pain. Like I'd like to know more. It's like, okay, you dropped a bomb on us, and now I don't know anything else, and I want to know more.
So I'm probably just restating what you just said, but an epiphany I had while you were talking is really the connection, but the weird connection between these two sections. The first you describe as, you know, control through organization, kind of a list of symptoms, but really an attempt to get at meaning through an illness narrative. She's trying to recount all of these things that comprise her illness so that she can get to a meaning. And then the next section is kind of doing the same thing. As you were talking, I realized that this is a childhood memory, a trigger, maybe even a dream. To me, it has that kind of loose, dream-like quality where things aren't really kind of matching up. but maybe it's trying to do the same thing. Maybe it's trying to get to meaning a different way through this kind of weird, kind of almost somnambulant space of,
Yeah, because I know, have you ever had a dream that seems so real when you wake up? You're like, was that real? Did it
yeah,
really happen or not?
yeah.
And am I remembering this correctly? Or is this just my subconscious dealing with whatever issue, modern issue I have?
Yeah. Are there secrets here for me to discover? Should I sit down and write it down and see if I can figure out some truth that I've missed in my waking life? Looking at it from every angle, just the same way that she's looking at this illness narrative, looking at her list of symptoms, for meaning.
Well, and
Yeah.
just before this, I was listening to a talk given Mel Let Them Theory. She was interviewing a famous psychologist or whatever doctor, and she was talking about how the mind, how people can actually heal themselves using their mind and being able to get in touch with whatever it is. But it was just really, she talked about what the difference between mindfulness and meditation, which I used to think were the same thing, and they are total opposites.
Mm.
So,
Oh
I
yeah,
just,
I get
yeah,
it.
yeah, and the mindfulness that this woman has in the second paragraph makes me think that maybe something, uh, maybe she was dreaming about this. Maybe she just had something triggered that memory, and it's somehow related to who she is now and why how she decides to handle what she's handling in the first section.
Absolutely. In fact, it's reminding me. So, what got me interested in getting this book was actually this book. Um, this is the Paris Review. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. It's a great literary journal. It comes out seasonally, so there's fall, a winter. This is for the fall. I just got it. There's a great interview with Maggie Nelson in here, and that's what got me interested in reading her most recent work. But she's actually I don't know if she identifies as a Buddhist, but she meditates and Buddhism is very important to her. So she actually talks a little bit about exactly what you're saying, Kim. Um, but for her, well, here, let me just read her own words. She says, I've noticed that when I've been working with ideas that seem contradictory, I sometimes find that I'm in a grip, holding on too tight, feeling that a choice needs to be made, or that two things can't coexist. In Buddhism, the grip is a form of suffering, a sign that you are not apprehending a situation clearly. You might ask yourself not how to reconcile the polarity, but how to hold it as it is, despite, through, or because of polarity, maybe. Um, so yeah, in some way, she's allowing both the actual physical illness that she's trying to trace through all of these different strategies she's created in her illness narrative that she's trying to hand the doctors in her file, and at the same time reconcile that with a lot of a lot of childhood memory and perhaps trauma that hasn't resolved itself at the same time, without saying it's one or the other, without saying it's all in my mind, without saying it's all in my somehow there's something happening in the space between that is.
Somehow the pain, the physical pain that she lives with every day, that's like that thorn in the side that they talk about in the Bible with Paul, for example.
Mm.
She's lived with it, she's living with it, but it's always going to be triggering something that she painfully has to remember, whether she wants to or not, because we can't avoid that. We can try, we can drown it, we can smoke it, we can drug it, we can do all kinds of things. It's all about the consciousness of, because I'm only saying this because of experience. I don't drink, I don't smoke or do drugs, but I could say food was my cover up every time I felt very sad or grieving or whatever. And after years and years, I know when I was diagnosed, for example, with my, oh, you have cancer in your foot and you're going to have to lose your leg. That's the only words I heard. After that, my friend who was sitting next to me, talked to the doctor because I was like, it was like I'm driving along and all of a sudden, Matt, my life changed 100%, 180. So her life changed 180. and it never changed back. There's nothing that ever changed back. There's a part of her still trying to grasp that part of her that was before the pain. And then there's the other part that's trying to grasp something in the future that means I'll be pain free.
Mhm.
And I'll never grow my leg back. Although I've had people say, let me pray for that. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I don't want it back. I'm perfectly fine with it missing. I mean, yes, I miss having a foot, but if it means that I have to deal with pain again as it's growing, I mean, just my weird satirical I don't know what other word to use for it, sadistic kind of thinking about, can you just imagine if your foot was really trying to grow back and your bones are growing, how painful that would be? So in a sense, I feel like she is like, there's always not just two sides, but three sides to everything, the past, the present, the future. And she's dealing with all three of them sometimes all at the same time. And it's like three radio stations competing for one frequency, and she's trying to decide which one she wants to listen to at that moment. At least that's what I say about my ADHD.
Oh, you have just given us such a wonderful framework for looking at this. Thank you so much, Kim. And thank you for sharing that about your experience too. I can feel a real kinship between you and the speaker.
Yeah, I want to read the rest of it. Of course, I'm going to have to look for the book and read it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so glad. Yeah, and you mentioned this is existing in three different temporalities at once. She's reaching backward and or I'm sorry, I shouldn't project this onto the speaker. You were talking about your experience, your lived experience of pain and how you reach backward for what was, to try to get that back. You're also reaching forward for a place beyond the pain that maybe you haven't gotten to yet. You don't know what it looks like, but you're reaching for it. And then there's also just this weird present moment where, it might all be happening simultaneously. You might really be tuning into the now. I'd love for us to follow that framework and look for past, present, and future here on this slide. Specifically, I'd love for us to look at what's happening in this second stanza and try to figure out what the heck is going on here.
The line, he is silhouetted and we know we are in trouble. I'm like, what kind of trouble? She really doesn't say, but our mind can go anywhere, or it can just be like, okay, I need to know more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when she says we are en route to the scene of the crime, but what crime?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When we get there, it's the girls' room in the Brady Bunch. Uh, like all three of the girls are in one room. Maybe it's a cabin in the woods. Maybe they went somewhere like that. I don't know. And then it says the next student is walking around with her cancerous cleft lip, talking about trauma, calling it the fuck festivity. And I was like, that's a fun word. And I used to hate that word, but as I get older, I'm pretty comfortable with it now. But it is what it is.
It has so many
I think
uses.
partly because I was raised very conservative, Nazarene, Christian, whatever, where you just didn't say those kinds of words, but yet you heard the grown-ups saying it. Why can't I say it? But then, you know, uh, they're they're the mother among us, the psychedelic moment in which her skull turns into radiant phosphenes with horrifying cavernous teeth. Is she talking about somebody that is her mom or somebody that they know? I'm really not sure. This is very mysterious the way she's worded this, like a dream. Like, when you wake up, you're like, what was that about? Why did I picture that? And you know, it's kind of confusing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I I'm kind of seeing like a cinematic mashup too. Like it begins with this kind of childhood memory frame, but then I kind of see like some film noir, maybe some Hitchcock in the silhouette, they know they're in trouble, it's dark. And then,
I
you know,
read Hitchcock growing up. Believe it or not, I was the kid in sixth grade reading Hitchcock because our library was a very small library. And once I got bored with the kids section, I moved to the grown-up section. And I love mystery and all that. And I used to watch those films growing up. But Hitchcock is the king of warping reality and time travel at the same time. He is a lot of his like out of body experience in some of his books. Like she might be having an out of body experience at this moment. Well, she's dreaming, but she's having an out of body experience. I don't know. I'm just guessing. This is kind of reminding me of that.
yeah, I mean, I see a warp of reality and time travel happening here too, and a weird out of body experience, and yet somehow weirdly her body's following her along too. Yeah, there you've got on you've got this kind of like murder mystery, film noir, serial killer thing going on in the background. Then you have the Brady Bunch, which is like the weird, very it's a big contrast to that, right? Like there's a crime happening. What crime? And then suddenly you're in the Brady Bunch, which signals to me like the perfect family, even despite all of its, how how they all got together. Like there's something perfect about the Brady Bunch, but it's not just the Brady Bunch, it's the girls' room in the Brady Bunch, the private space in the perfect family that maybe we don't really have full access to as viewers. There's a lot of just interesting stuff going on here. What other genres are you noticing in this? What other maybe cinematic or what other types of stories are going on in this section?
I thought the mother among us was important, and like this just came up too as you both were talking, because Maggie Nelson did eventually become a mother, right? But it's like this is before that. Like there's definitely some indicators here of like the mother among us. So like there's, potentially three women in this scene, and like the ex-student is one. We don't really know like the relationship or like who that is in the family. But the mother among us is one of the three women there who is a mother, and like is married to my, it says, like her husband, my grandfather. So like we don't she's not like identified as a grandmother. So maybe it's like she's only a grandmother by marriage, and so like that's why the speaker isn't calling her grandma the way she does like when she says grandpa.
Hmm.
Um, but
Again.
it's like there's a secret there that is like not being told, and she's maybe looking like the speaker is maybe looking back on this and saying like I could see that there was something off with this woman, and like now I know it's because she was keeping a secret of like, killing his daughter, which is potentially the speaker's mom, who is no longer here. And like what sort of actions cause that? Like we don't really know.
So I'm hearing there's a kind of complicity from the woman that it's not she's not just talking about this Eve she's not focusing even on the evil grandfather. She's focusing on the mother who feels terrible guilt for having kept that
Mm.
man's secret, for being complicit. So there's guilt, there's shame here.
Yeah,
And
and
I think the word secret is a great one for almost everything happening in this whole section. Something secret, something buried. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, I Googled the meaning of phosphenes because I wasn't sure what that meant, and it said like something that is glowing or luminous without a light source, which was like, oh my God, like that's so poetic. Like
There you
the
go.
light is not being shed on the secret, but it's still like very obvious.
Right. It's coming from within it. Oh, that's fascinating. Thank you for looking that up, Kyler. In the spirit of time, I'm going to go ahead and shift us to the next slide, but let's keep all of these feelings and associations in mind and read the next slide in that lens. Um, oh, this one's mine. I'll return the slide to you guys. All of you, what genres are you noticing? What feelings are you noticing here? What types of stories and how do they make you feel?
I also had to look up logorrheic, and I often feel that I am this way and I over explain because I have anxiety and also like I'm neurodivergent. So I feel like because of my upbringing, I feel like I have to like really justify things, especially if I'm saying no or like, not wanting to do something. I feel like I have to, and in these histories that we are expected to give doctors, it's like if you don't say enough, then you're like a bad historian. And like this is something that came up in the podcast recently for the 9 week course. So like I don't, want to like leave, Kim out of that discussion, but basically it's the idea that like patients are bad orators of their own history, like if they don't tell you enough or if they're not describing it in a way that the clinician feels is like reflective of how they think and like the connections that they can make if you're not even using the right words. And then it's like the speaker says, obviously like they're tucking it into the rear of my file, like they don't care. Like, why am I doing this? I'm trying to be like the star student, of like my medical care, and it rarely matters. Like I'm grasping at straws. Nobody knows what's wrong with me. I'm bringing in all of these like threads, common threads that I see in my history, but I don't know if it means anything. And like they don't seem to know either.
Right. Not wanting to miss any details that might prove key. I allow the tapestry to widen.
It's like she's opening the curtain so that she can get a better look
Mm-hmm.
at what she's trying to understand, what she's trying to see about her life, her pain, her situation. And like we said, everything rolls back to her grandfather. That's when she was triggered, or when the symptoms started kicking in. And,
Oh,
uh,
interesting.
you know, it was at his funeral. She got the flu, and then it turned into autoimmune something, that kind of thing. But she's still picturing, well, if I hadn't got the flu, maybe I wouldn't be where I am today. But then again, you cannot change the past and what happened. That's
Mhm.
very conflicting. So she's trying to make sense of even a part of it at this point. It's like not wanting to miss any details that might prove key. I allow the tapestry to widen, weaving in my early history with speech therapy, lifelong struggles with tonsillitis, adolescent adventures and orthodonture, previous barium swallows and bouts of TMJ, the wearing of and then she's got the pain, but then she switches over to the wearing of the baby, the perimenopause, the domestic stressors, the literal and symbolic role of the mouth in the life of a writer. It's just amazing how she switched roles that quick and combined, like I'm this, but I'm this. I have too many hats going on at one time. I just
Right.
want to wear one hat for a while.
And yet she's actively creating the hats. Like she's actively building them. It reminds me of something else that we've been discussing. Sorry to keep bringing everything. Kyler and I keep talking about the 9 week course, but it's hard not to bring it in when it's like we've been learning so much these past few weeks that it's like fresh on our minds. But it reminds me a little bit of something we were discussing there about how narrative is not just a recitation of the past, it's a creation of the present and the future. We learn who we are by writing ourselves and our thoughts down. We create who we are through the narrative. And it might be that she is in that process of self-creation as well, trying to assimilate all of these different things. I think that the word weaving is really important for me here. She is actively braiding all of these different parts of her story together, even with the gaps in between the text that we've read itself. maybe even especially because of the gaps and how they invite us as readers to weave the ideas together to try to create meaning, like, the full image of that you would see on a tapestry that involve all of these things. Um, I Guys, I am so sorry that I have not been keeping an eye on the time, and we're like pretty much at time, and I do not want us to lose the flow of our discussion as we write. So I'm going to invite everybody to take, if you can stick around just a couple extra minutes, we're still going to write today. And if you'd like to stay longer and share, I'm game too. But I'd love for everyone at least to stay and write so that we can write while it's fresh and we can be writing in the shadow of our discussion here. So go ahead, pull out a piece of paper or a fresh screen on your device, and we're going to write to this prompt today. Originally, it was a very simple one, to pick one body part and tell the story of it in the same way that she said she told the story of her mouth, but that felt really daunting to me to tell the story of a body part. So instead, I'm going to invite you just to free associate like we did at the beginning for 5 minutes about this body part, jotting down everything connected to it, memories, sensations, turns of phrase, metaphors, family stories, medical experiences, dreams, you name it. We're just going to free associate for 5 minutes. Take a minute to choose a body part. Doesn't have to be something in pain. It could just be whatever's calling your name today. And I'll set a timer for 5 minutes.